Hi, welcome back. This is Kari. If you're interested in developing healthier and wealthier relationships with yourself and others by feeding your body, your soul, your spirit, and your pocket, stick around because there's lots to have on this channel. Today we're going to be doing a lot of all of those things by reviewing what are some of the best lessons from 2022. Stick around until the end. By the way, I do need your help. Could you just subscribe and give me a like? 2022 was one heck of a year. Don't I know it? But nonetheless, what I love to do at the end of the year and the beginning of the next is to really evaluate all the lessons throughout the year. What were the things that went well? What were the things that maybe need to be reassessed? What are the things that I could improve on? What are the things that need adjustment somehow? What I like to do at the end of a year, at the beginning of a new one as well, is to make an assessment of what happened in the previous months so that I can see exactly what are the areas of development and what are the areas that I did well on, because evaluation is really important in order for us to keep track on our growth and to make ourselves accountable for where it is that we want to go. So it's a measurement tool for yourself, essentially, that you can also apply to your business and all areas of your life. Because if we never take stock of where we are and how we're living, then we're pretty much living life very passively. And that's never a good thing. We want to be able to actively pursue our lives and also change and adjust as we need to. If the things that we are doing no longer serve us well at any point, we can at all times make adjustments, and that's how we take control of our lives, of our businesses, and how we thrive. Let's get right into my top lessons for 2022. Now, the first one is use what you have. And I strongly endorse this, because I feel like whatever it is that we were made to accomplish, whatever destiny, divine destiny that we have, the greatness that God gifted us inside of us while we were born, all the things that we need are actually imprinted already in our DNA. So we can acquire new skills and resources and so on to get to mobilize us to that destination. But nonetheless, everything we need to get those resources, all of those things are already within us. And so use what you have. There's no excuse. Use what you have. And instead of saying I don't have, saying how can I? Ask yourself, how can I? That's a really great coaching question that I use with my clients. Next, number 2, not far from number 1. And that is, do not focus on what you lack, but focus on what you already possess. Similar to number 1, but a little bit different. Here's why it's different. Focusing on lack only creates more of the same thing that you don't want. Because wherever you put all of your energy and your focus, that's exactly what will multiply. So instead of focusing on what is missing, focus instead on what is there. It's the shift from moving from lack and poverty and struggle into the abundance of resources that are already there within us and for us. Because guess what? Everything in this world was created by God. All good things were created by God. And guess what? It is for our abundance. And even when we think we're limited and there are limited resources, there's still enough for us to generate. So even if it's a seed, as small as a mustard seed, you can plant that seed and it grows into a huge tree. That's how wonderful it is when we focus on the things we have. Don't worry about not having a big old tree. Focus on the fact that you have a seed. When you have the seed, you plant it, you water it, and eventually it will bear fruit. Focus on what you have, focus on what you possess instead of what you lack. All right, number 3. If you've identified a need in a certain area in your life or in your business, bookmark it and go about swiftly securing the resources you need in order to achieve it. So if it's an area of development, do you need coaching? Do you need into invest in some learning? Do you need to invest in some tools? How can you deal with that need? Go and develop in those areas that you feel that are necessary. So for example, last year I went about securing the knowledge to deal with things like sales, because as a creative, sales does not come to me naturally. I would give away all of my gifts for free, but I needed to be able to understand that sales is a very intricate art, and not just a salesy thing. I'm not trying to sell anybody something. I'm simply trying to communicate value. And the more it is that I realized that sales was not what I thought it was, but simply something that could align with my own values in terms of giving value to people and communicating that value, then it became a lot easier, because I went about finding the requisite tools I needed in order to grow myself and to grow my business. So realize what the areas of development you have, and then go about getting those resources. So that was a huge lesson for me last year. I've grown phenomenally as a result, because I focused on those areas that needed to be changed and needed to be developed. As a result of my own assessment and investment in the resources necessary to grow in terms of pursuing and understanding sales in a way that felt true and authentic to who I was and how I presented myself and my business, I've grown phenomenally. And this is just the beginning, because as you continue to invest and as you continue to be consistent, which is the next point, then you're going to see improvements. Acquiring these skills and focusing on mastering them actually only leads to even greater improvement. And speaking of mastery, that's the next thing. Consistency leads to mastery. And what do I mean by this? When you start playing a piano, where you start, even when a kid starts walking, a baby starts to walk, it doesn't happen very beautifully in the beginning. It is a hopping mess. You bang until you realize, okay, these are keys, and you have to learn C, D, E, F, G, learn the scales, all sorts of things, and you're literally going step by step, and it's really very monotonous and boring in the very early stages, until you continue to repeat. And then as you repeat and become consistent in your practice, the more hours you put at it, the greater you'll become. You know, you'll be playing a song. But did you start playing a song initially? Unless you were born gifted to have the ear of playing by ear and playing music just like that, then likely not. Likely it was a painful process. And that's the same thing. One of the things that I learned last year is literally developing the muscle for consistency. And have I completely polished that? Have I mastered that? Not quite, but I'm working on it. And that's why I'm here. Me being here in front of the camera on this YouTube channel today, talking to you about my best lessons from 2022, is part of me using the opportunity to become more consistent by coming out and doing the things that I find difficult in order to improve and grow and eventually master the very thing that seems so daunting in the first place. Because guess what? YouTube takes a lot of time, but it's essential, and it's a really great way to connect with people. So consistency leads to mastery. Do not undermine that. Even if it's messy in the beginning, eventually you'll get to it like a pro. Ask any kid. Ask yourself, can't you walk? You didn't walk at the first time though. You were stumbling, you fell, you crept, you crawled, and then you started to walk gracefully. Now you're running. Same thing. Consistency leads to mastery. And if it takes you, here's one. This is a bonus. I wasn't planning on saying this, but this makes sense now. If it takes you longer than the person next door, do not watch that, because we are all different. Never judge your race by somebody else's. You need to focus on your own race, your own lane, because different people have different things going on at the same time. So if somebody comes into full bloom earlier than you, then wish them well, support them, clap for them, because your time will come. But don't be discouraged because somebody else has gone to where you want to reach by the time you feel like you should have. No. Focus instead on your process and what is working in developing in you, so that you'll be ready for your win when your time comes. This one is really deep. And this is, you are stronger than you think. That goes for me, that goes for you. If 2022 taught me nothing else, it taught me that. Last year was a year of tremendous struggle. It was 2 years after the pandemic, and it seemed like the year that everything was supposed to get right. But in order to get right, then a lot of things just had to go because this is life, right? Disruption follows intention. So as soon as you go about really trying to go about something that is magnanimous and set off on this really great goal, then everything comes to clash, everything comes to challenge, and you just have to realize that, whoa, settle down. You're stronger than you think. You see, in life, the same things that bring us to our knees are the same things that have the potential to bring us to the very success that we crave. It's really ironic. And so it's easy for us to feel like, whoa, to run away from the struggle, to run away from the pain, not realizing that tackling it, facing it, confronting it, finding your strength in it, and your peace and your calm in it, and moving through it is actually what's going to help you to get to the very place that you want to. You are stronger than you think. That was such a huge lesson for me in 2022. Now, this one is important. Start now. And what do I mean by start now? Just like that James Bond movie and the book, tomorrow never comes. It never does. Like, think about how many times you've said, I'll start tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll write that business plan tomorrow. I'll invest in myself tomorrow. I'll get into real estate tomorrow. I'll do something else tomorrow. I'll go back to school tomorrow. Whatever it is that you have a plan for within life, in business, and you decide you're always putting it off until tomorrow. How many times have you looked at those tomorrows that never have come? Because it's always tomorrow. Whereas, if you just start in the uncertainty that is right now, if you just make that commitment that this is it, by the hook or by the crook, I'm in it and we're doing it. Whether it's messy or not, this is what's going to happen. Then what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to have this humongous bit of help on your side. And that help, my friends, is momentum. You see, momentum is this thing that allows you to move. And it is easier to move something that's already moving than something that's stationary. So once you're able to make that first move, that is the hardest move. So just do it. Just start now. Whatever it is that you've been putting off, whether it is that you want to start a business on the side, even though you're a professional, or create a new income stream, start now. Last year, I just decided that I just had to start. The things that are not really the way that they want to be, forget that. Start. Grow in the process. Start now. Huge lesson. This one is, lighten your load. Lighten your load. Lighten your load. That's it. Lighten your load. Over time, I've been able to get rid of unhealthy habits that have become crutches for me. And I'll get into detail as to what that might look like, maybe in a way that you can identify with. When you first break, like you break a leg, right? You have to restrict movement. So you go into the hospital, you get a cast put on, and the cast allows your joints to be set back properly, and there is no movement that's to be had. So you're not supposed to move the joint. That's why it's put in a cast so that it stays stiff and it heals in that position. Also, you're not allowed to put weight on it because weight will affect the healing. So you're given crutches. Eventually you move from those hardened crutches into maybe soft crutches that allow you to do a little bit of movement as the break heals. After which you're able to take off that slight restraint and you're able to start physiotherapy, or maybe both at a time to the point where you're completely out of crutches. You cannot just continue to use crutches beyond the time that you need them. But before you actually get rid of crutches, learning to walk again is a painful process. The physiotherapy is painful. There's no way to get to walking again without going through that pain, without breathing through all the things that it takes, all the psychological work, the inner strength and fortitude it takes to be able to go through those physiotherapy sessions and to again place weight on that foot, again to move, knowing that this too shall pass. You have to lighten your load. You have to lighten your load. Crutches are things that we use to brace us up, even unhealthy habits that we use to brace us so that we can make it through. But they're just a false sense of security, and we actually don't grow when we have them. Eventually, we have to let them go in order to build our best selves and to grow us in our best way possible. And so, lighten your load. Get rid of the things that no longer serve you well. Huge lesson in 2022. It also meant for me specifically not focusing on the things that other people were doing or not doing in order to affect my circumstance, but focusing on how I could go about being the overcomer in all circumstances. And therefore, taking back my power. Yeah. You should too. So these are some of my best lessons for 2022. But here are some that you have told me. I've got some from my Facebook group, and I'm going to share them with you just about now. Before we start though, could you just do me a favor and subscribe and like this video? Plus tell me what it is that you have as your best lessons for 2022. I'd like to hear from you. So this is from Vanessa Reed Ledford. She says, communication matters. Assumption is never factual. What a really poignant point. And she's a communicator herself, so this was really good coming from her. She says, like, I repeat, communication matters. Assumption is never factual. And so it really gives us the reminder that we should always make certain that we have the same understanding even in our conversations, because what you think you may have said may not be what the other person received. And sometimes, especially with some people, it's very difficult for you to actually have meaningful communication. So it's important that there is that mutual understanding. Otherwise, communication did not really occur. Now, next we have Terrence Later, and he says, support doesn't always come from family and friends. Crystal Collins says, stay consistent and work it out no matter what it looks like, as long as you know it will yield a positive outcome. So she again reinforces my own lesson on consistency. So if you know that it's going to reap a good positive outcome, no matter what it looks like in this time, in the process right now, put on your blinkers and focus on being consistent. Brilliant point. Fiona Burke says, trust God. That's it. That was a 365-day lesson. And that is the lesson. It was that lesson that allowed me to walk through 2022 in spite of some of the things that I saw. Because I told you I had my highest highs and I had my lowest lows. And some of them were actually happening simultaneously. So how do you balance that? You have to be able to trust in something greater than what it is that you can see. And my relationship with God definitely has made a difference. This point, trust God, that's it. Brilliant. Fiona Burke. Marion Schultz says, the gift and art of listening cannot be underrated. In my work, it is essential, and I find it carries over into everyday encounters. Absolutely. Again, tying into Vanessa's comment of communication. Brilliant point here. And Adiola Adefikayo says, believe in yourself and never limit yourself. brilliant. Janike on LinkedIn, she wrote, last year I responded to many RFPs, submitting many bids and received many no's in 2022. Through it all, I learned that no, N-O, means next opportunity. Boss. That's true, Janike, because delay is not denial. Delay is on to your next opportunity. I love it. N-O, next opportunity. So, what are your best lessons for 2022? Tell me in the comments, as well as tell us which ones that we've mentioned here resonated with you. And we're gonna see you in the next video, because you're not gonna wait until I post another one. I have many videos here already. This year I'm going to be focused on feeding your spirit, feeding your soul, feeding your pocket, because it's gonna be essential this year for our growth. We're gonna deal with some mindset stuff as well, and I'm gonna be very transparent with you in my own process as well. I tell you this, as much as I really love the camera, I do love being behind the camera. So I've hidden myself behind the camera for a long time, even though I grew up in front of the camera. But nonetheless, it's time for us to be able to talk and see each other face to face. So I'm going to be doing more of this, because it's useless having all of the information that I have if I don't share with you, especially since you're asking for it. So I thank you for the time that you take to watch and support this channel. And I just would love to continue to have your support. So like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you want more information about me, you can always find more in the description box. Don't go anywhere. See you in the next video.